Five-star wing player Bryson Tucker, is he still on the table for Michigan State? Also, we talk about a few names and some concerns with this transfer portal season. Let's go.
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This episode of Locked On Spartans is brought to you by Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Check them all out today at nissanusa.com. Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, thank you all so much for tuning in to Locked On Spartans, your team in green and white 5 days a week. Yes, that includes the offseason, baby. You got that right. There's going to be a lot of basketball talk. On today's show, we're going to talk about, well, could there be another recruit for this 2024 class? Many of you know who I'm talking about. We're going to get into that here in the first segment, and then in segments 2, and then maybe bleeding into 3, we'll get some more transfer talk because, yeah, there's a lot of names entering. Is Michigan State reaching out to any of them yet? Anyway, we'll save that for later on this show. Let's get into the mix right now. Bryson Tucker, 5-star 2024 player, one of the few uncommitted top guys in this 2024 class. And about a month ago, it was determined that he was between 3 locations. All right, Michigan State, let's get that out of the way right now, Kansas, and then the pro route. Okay, there's some news very recently that dropped on the NBA side of things that they are ending their G League Ignite team. Now, the G League Ignite, instead of going to college, it was a team of prospects right out of high school to kind of mold them into NBA players. They would play some games against G League opponents, mostly developmental stages. That has not worked out well. And, well, with the boom in NIL and college basketball, really has thrown a wrench into some things on the NBA side. So that has blown up. So that has opened the door for Bryson Tucker to maybe consider college, specifically Michigan State a little more. Now, we've got quite the butterfly effect here coming up. I'm going to try to, hold everyone's hand and walk us through how we're going to get to the finish line of this one. But yes, there is a butterfly effect here that starts in Bloomington. Okay, Liam McNeely. And that's a 5-star wing player. He committed to the Hoosiers. He was the only commit to Mike Woodson's Hoosiers for the next class. He decommits. He asks to get out of his letter of intent, and now he's back in the open market. All right, and it's heavily rumored that Kansas was the runner-up during his initial commitment. And after decommitting from Indiana, a lot of smoke around that, yes, he could be going to Bill Self and the Jayhawks. Okay, well, if he is going to go to Kansas, could Bryson Tucker find a spot here at Michigan State, since maybe Liam McNeely is going to take that spot down in Kansas? Well, hold on. Wait, folks, there's more. Bryson Tucker, a few days ago, took a visit to Indiana to be what Mike Woodson hopes is his only commit for this 2024 class. How a program of the stature of Indiana does not have any commits for next year's class is beyond me, but that's a different discussion. Anyway, so now, if I could be like Charlie Day and Always Sunny and just connect the dots and the strings and the lines all together, does this mean that all of a sudden it's now a race between Michigan State, a team that, hasn't really had anything going on for them lately as far as, roster and decommitments go, and Indiana as the other school? I actually reached out to someone very prominent in the recruiting industry, very generous with his time. I only sent him a few texts. Someone whose opinion I value highly. And I asked him, point blank, do you think that with Liam McNeely and the smoke around Kansas being there, does this make it a Indiana versus Michigan State race? What are your thoughts on this? First and foremost, he said that maybe some smoke around Liam McNeely to Kansas is kind of going away a little bit. Could still very well happen, but there are other schools in the mix. So first and foremost, Kansas is still going to have something to say about this Bryson Tucker commitment as far as he knows. And, well, this guy knows a lot. Also, Bryson Tucker, not too long ago, spoke very highly of Michigan State, tabbing it as his dream school, but that was a very long time ago. Really hasn't touched base with him since, because it was a foregone conclusion with even the best experts in basketball recruiting that, yes, it was going to be the G League Ignite. But now that the G League Ignite does not exist, here we are. Michigan State is squarely back in this thing, and this is a position of need because Bryson Tucker, to go into a little bit about his game, he's that big wing. We have two things at the top of our wish list. All right, it's a big wing, so that's 6'6" or higher that could play around the perimeter, also has a nice mid-range game, which Bryson Tucker does have, and of course, center, a big man. All right, Michigan State can shore up one of those issues, granted with a true freshman. I understand that, and we've seen, how much true freshmen can be held back a little bit, perhaps, if they do come here, but we've also seen further in the history of Michigan State how instant impact they can be. So there it is. You'd be putting your eggs in the basket of a 5-star freshman, which sounds fun, but hey, we'd have to see how that goes during the season. I would be one to take that gamble. I would like to see how this goes with one Bryson Tucker, a guy that'll probably spend a year here before going to the NBA. All right, so there it is. He has a good mid-range game. He really thrives between that 12 to 18 foot, and if you know anything about Michigan State, we value the mid-range jump shot for some reason. So that is going to be a big line item here. It could be solved right now. So we do got to wait a little bit. Signing date is until April 17th. This has been an oddly quiet process for Bryson Tucker. Usually if you're a 5-star or heck, even a 4-star in high school basketball, everyone knows everything about your commitment status or your recruitment. But man, this guy has played it very, very tight. So between now and mid-April, and then when the signing day window closes in mid-May, we should have our answer. But I just want you to close your eyes and envision just a lineup of Jeremy Fears at the 1, Jaden Akins at the 2, Tucker at the 3, Xavier Booker at the 4, and let's call it Cooper at the 5 right now. Or a small ball lineup, which is, it's fun to say small ball when this fifth guy, Xavier Booker, is 6'10", but like Fears, Trey Holloman, Akins, Tucker, Booker. I mean, we're looking at 3 shooters on the court right there. So, look, that's going to shore up a problem right there with Bryson Tucker. So, we'll see where it goes next. But, yes, I think it's interesting with the G League dissolving, or the G League Ignite dissolving, I should say. The G League actual league is still there. And then also his visit to Indiana to see, all right, how many horses are really in this race now for his college commitment. Now, really quick, I do want to riff on this a little bit. Yesterday with Graham Couch, he said that he could very well see Mady Sissoko coming back to Michigan State next year, which I would put it at a 50-50 coin toss right now. If you asked me during the season, I was going to put it at like 95%. No way he's coming back. But if he does understand his reduced role next year, and he does understand that, hey, there could be nights that you get zeroed out or you only play 3 minutes, your role is going to be a big energy off the bench guy, fine. If he's really, really hell-bent on staying in East Lansing, sure, what are you going to do? Physically drag the kid out of East Lansing? I guess you can't do that. But that doesn't sit well with some Michigan State fans. Understandably so, because for one, I feel like hearing that Mady Sissoko could come back, I want to make this clear. Like, I don't think that would be the solution for Michigan State. I don't think if he comes back, that Michigan State wouldn't do anything else in the transfer portal with a big man. Now, if that is the case, if Mady is coming back and they don't make any other changes to the center room and it is the same core coming back, well, that'd be disgraceful. That would just be a huge problem. But no, if he comes back in this limited role, whatever. It is what it is. Now, Matt C., he wrote in email, if Mady comes back, you can go ahead and put Izzo in a nursing home because he's baked. Get 2 transfer bigs. No reason to keep a 5th-year guy that can't get minutes. Now, again, like, I do wonder if it's a situation too, and this might be like crazy. I don't even know if anyone would go for this on either side, Michigan State side or Mady's side. Like, if we can get him off scholarship, I'd feel really good about that. And that is a borderline mean thing to say. Like, we're talking about a former top 40 recruit, a guy that's been here for 4 years. But in the age of NIL, can you supplement the loss of a scholarship with some money on the side? Perhaps you can, but man, here's my issue here if Mady comes back. It's not the fact that he struggles catching the ball or he can't really score anything. It's this. This is my one issue. Is that you would still have 12 scholarship players on your team if he is back next year taking up a scholarship. And this is assuming A.J. Hoggard is gone, right? We know that Malik's gone, Tyson's gone, Davis Smith most likely gone as well. So that's 12 scholarships taken up if Mady comes back. You need, not one, you need 2 impact guys this offseason, whether that is a Bryson Tucker that we just talked about. Okay, there's your 13. You only get 13 scholarships in basketball, though. That's why I'm a little worried about this number here. Because if you fill up 13 scholarships with Bryson Tucker, you don't have a spot to get a big in the transfer portal. We just saw on the sample size of, 33 or 34 games last year, how important that big is. So if Monty comes back, understands his role, great. You need someone else to leave, though, okay? Because you need 2 additions in the portal. We're going to talk portal a little bit more here, guys, but first you need to talk your ears off about Nissan. That is right. This week's March Madness Bracket Highlight is brought to you by our friends at Nissan. Each week, we are picking one team that stands out, a team that's pushed it further than the rest, just like any of the all-new 2024 Nissan SUVs. These guys were able to take it to the next level. Like, for example, the Iowa State Cyclones. They can only be described as a Pathfinder. They've been thrilling to watch and have really created a lane for themselves entering the tournament as one of the hottest teams in the country. They have a date with Illinois coming up this Thursday in the Sweet 16, or America's sweetheart, the NC State Wolfpack. They are obviously this week's Nissan Rogue. This team absolutely surprised us all with a powerful performance in their first 2 games of the tournament with wins over Texas Tech and Oakland. They set themselves up with a date to play Marquette in the Sweet 16. They say win life, go Rogue, and that is exactly what the Wolfpack have done here. So take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. Also, if your bracket is completely blown to smithereens like mine is, my goodness gracious, Bettor Together is here to make March Madness a little more delightful. Or, hey, let's say you're tired and sick of all the daily fantasy sports grinds, just the same thing over and over again. Like, you make a roster, you just cross your fingers and you hope for the best, or if you do what I call the Matt Sheehan special, you'll lose your whole thing on the last leg of your pick'em. I can't count how many times I've done that. Well, introducing Bettor Together is the first cooperative daily fantasy platform where teamwork triumphs talent and you get to play with your friends, not against them. You just pick more or less on real-time player stats. You strategize with your partner to boost your odds and climb the leaderboard together. So, grab a friend or a bunch of Michigan State fans and join the daily fantasy sports movement. Now, State fans, just like I said, we got to band together, show that we are the best players because, well, who knows Michigan State and sports better than our Spartan fans out there. So band together, create a chance to win with real money prizes. Download the Bettor Together app from the App Store right now and sign up using promo code LOCKEDON for a chance to win your share of over $1,000 in cash prizes. Again, that is code LOCKEDON, all one word, at Bettor Together, because winning alone is fun, but it's better together. Now let's dive back into some transfer portal talk here because it's a massive offseason here. I got 2 names that I want to talk about. One I would love to add, and one I would just be like, with adding. And we're going to start with that name. We're going to start with the one that I'd just be like, okay, sure, maybe, I guess, because this is a popular name, especially in the great state of Michigan. For all you, like myself, that bandwagoned the Oakland Golden Grizzlies, you know the name Trey Townsend, all right? Mr. Oakland, as they've dubbed him. He did wonders for the Grizzlies program this year, specifically in that Horizon League championship game. 39 points, willed his Golden Grizzlies to the NCAA tournament. He's in the transfer portal, all right? He wants a new home. He wants to finish out at a Power 6 school, all right? And so this is a name a lot of Michigan State fans know. Trey Townsend, 6'6", kind of plays on that low block position. That's where he made a lot of his hay. But guys, I got to say, you can make a lot of direct comparisons to Malik Hall. There's a lot of similarities with both these guys' game. Now, I will say we're going to point out some differences here, is that Trey Townsend is 2 inches shorter. All right, he shoots less threes. They're kind of around the same as far as career three-point percentage goes, but he averaged less than 1 3-point attempt per game. I think he had 2 against Kentucky and 3 against North Carolina State, but on the whole, not a true outside threat. Now, Trey Townsend, he averaged 17.3 points per game. Malik only averaged about 12 points per game. However, Trey shot a lot more than Malik, and I want to go through some shooting percentages here because at the rim, Trey Townsend shot just 58%. Malik Hall was 74%. All right, that is quite a gap right there as far as finishing goes. Now, on other twos, so we're talking like elbow jumpers, mid-range jumpers, Townsend only hit at a 34% clip. Malik Hall was closer to a 48% clip. Now, one difference that goes into Trey's pro column right here. Said he averaged 8 rebounds per game. And yes, you could point to the Horizon League, say that, oh, that's not great competition over there. He just, beat up on a bunch of inferior players. Now, he had 12 rebounds against Kentucky, and he had 13 against North Carolina State in the tournament. Also, when the lights were shining really bright in that Horizon League championship game, he had 11 boards there too. So kind of the same player. Trey's a little bit better of a rebounder, and Malik scored at a much higher percentage clip than Trey Townsend. So in short, here's my thoughts on Trey Townsend. We just talked about how Michigan State right now maybe has 1, if not just 2 slots coming up for this transfer portal season. Maybe it gets to 3 if you get 2 departures here. I need to see those 2 spots used again on a big wing, which is the other name we're going to talk about here right after this, or a dynamic center. Malik Hall, he was a fine player. You guys know me. Love me some Malik Hall. I would like to shoot for a little higher in this transfer portal season for a few reasons too. Okay. The biggest one is that Xavier Booker is going to be running the shop at the 4 next year. Do we really want another guy that's going to get in here and potentially split minutes with him? And yes, you can do some small ball here with Trey Townsend at the 4 and then Booker at the 5. But man, I just don't know if we just want to go get ourselves another Malik that's not even that, as good offensively as Malik Hall was here. I think it could be better suited, that big wing or the center spot. So that's why I'm like no thanks on Trey Townsend, because look, if this was a situation like Indiana and we had 7 open scholarship spots, my God, I would take him in tomorrow, right? I no problem whatsoever if we just had nothing but scholarship spots open, but we don't. That's the issue right now. We have 2 needs. We have 1 scholarship spot open right now, maybe 2 if someone leaves. So that's where I'm at right now, Trey Townsend. I'm sorry to rain on the Oakland Golden Grizzlies parade here, but yeah, that's kind of where I stand right now. And I'm going to have a hunch that's maybe where the staff stands right now too. Now let's get into another name, a name that we know for a bad reason to start the season. It's James Madison, Sun Belt Conference Player of the Year, Terrence Edwards. When we're talking big wing, this is kind of what we're talking about here. 6'6" Terrence Edwards, just like I said, Sun Belt Player of the Year. He announced his intentions to either A, enter the NBA draft, or B, go into the transfer portal and at a Power 6 school. Tom, I need you to call your nephew, the one that's an assistant coach down there in James Madison for the Dukes, and try to push him up here, right? Because this would be nice. This is a guy that could score at all 3 levels. We saw it here at Michigan State. Now, he got a good amount of his points here at the free throw line, but that was a nice part of Terrence Edwards, too, is that he could get to the free throw line. He's an 80% shooter at the free throw line on his career. He shoots 36% from three-point land in his career, but that is the kind of player we are looking for. If you do miss on Bryson Tucker, get someone in here that is experienced, that can be a big-time player like Terrence Edwards. Now, this is where we're going to start talking about maybe some concerns I have with this transfer portal cycle, because Luke Cheney of 24/7 Sports, he reported that Terrence Edwards so far has heard from Wisconsin, TCU, Vanderbilt, Mississippi State, Xavier, and Oregon. Okay, so here's my concern right now, and this goes beyond Terrence Edwards. Whenever you're seeing reports from recruiting insiders, whether it's, Joe Tipton, whether it's Luke Cheney, I have yet to see a report with Michigan State reaching out to either of these players. Now, we talked about Javon Small from Oklahoma State not too long ago. That came from Trilly Donovan, all right? He's an insider. This was on his Discord. This was through inside information. No one has been leaked yet to mainstream media is what we'll call this, for Michigan State reaching out to them. That's a problem, I think. And sure, is there an off chance that maybe Michigan State is reaching out to some players here and they're telling them, hey, we don't want you to say anything publicly because right now we're doing our end of the year interviews with our players. We're kind of seeing where guys are going to be going. Do they want to stay? Do they not? We don't want to hurt their feelings. So, hey, at the end of this phone call, if you could just tell them that we never called you in the first place, that'd be awesome. Is there a small chance that's happening? Sure. Yeah, we could lie to ourselves and say that, I suppose, but it's been quiet. on Michigan State's front for the transfer portal. And I'm sorry, guys, I'm not really buying the whole, well, yeah, hey, they're doing end of the year interviews right now. They want to make sure all the relationships with these guys, whether they stay or go, is all good. Okay, yeah, one problem about that. Iowa State and Gonzaga, two teams currently playing in the NCAA tournament, currently having a season still taking place. They just added transfer portal players not too long ago. I mean, it's not to say like, oh, screw your feelings or whatever, because look, you got to have some delicacy towards these players. But also, if we're going to come out here and say, I'm going to do whatever it takes to make another deep tournament run or die trying, start picking up the phone and start calling players here. All right, names are going to start flying off the board faster than you even realize. So the fact that Michigan State isn't even in consideration for any of these players yet, I'm a little concerned, because you don't want to be the last one to the party. A, because the player could feel slighted that you showed up so late, or B, they're already going to be taking their visits and already off the board. So I'm not trying to like panic everyone, but man, it's really hard for me to just keep on seeing these tweets of, hey, a center. That'd be a really good idea. Like, who's that guy from South Dakota State? William Kyle. He'd be a great big man here. Hey, here's a list of teams that have reached out to him. Why don't I see Michigan State on that list anywhere? Like, let's start trying to do what we have to do to make a deep tournament run, because Tom, I don't want to see you die trying. I just want to see you try. That's all I want to see here. All right, folks. Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire TV stick that you can plug into your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Now, whether it's opening weekend for baseball or the college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have Fire TV. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. Now, that includes all of us at Locked On and most of the big pro leagues and college conferences too. Fire TV channels lets you dive into all the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date on the latest in the world of sports. Talking March Madness, NBA, MLB, and so much more. Not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, and cooking videos too. Check it all out at Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, well, you should. Trust me on this one. To learn more, visit www.amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. Now, we're going to talk about what NCAA President Charlie Baker said about what he wants to do with betting on college props. He wants to eliminate them. We're going to talk about that here a little bit. But first, we're going to give a nod to the baseball team there over in East Lansing, our baseball Spartans. Oh, yeah. They poured it on the Michigan Wolverines on Tuesday night. Or, no, I'm sorry, Monday night. Probably should have looked that up before recording. The other day, let's call it 16-6 over Michigan. Okay, they poured on 7 runs in the 9th inning. And as their Twitter account pointed out, the last 3 wins over Michigan have included 14-plus runs in each of those games. So really good game for Michigan State, who is 10-12 overall right now. But they have like 2 really fun wins, just like this one against Michigan. Again, I'll say the score again, 16-6. And they also earlier this season beat Georgia. They threw up a few touchdowns on Georgia too earlier this season. And by the way, Georgia, yeah, they're just 21-4 right now this season. So that is a hell of a win for Michigan State. That happened a few weeks ago, but yeah, there you have it. Sorry, I forgot the specific day there. Right now, as we're recording on Wednesday, I've thought this whole day was Thursday. I'm all sorts of jacked up with days in my head right now. So sorry about that stumble out of the gates talking about baseball. But let's go over to the offices of NCAA President Charlie Baker, because you may have heard this news. He wants to eliminate betting on college player props. All right. And we're talking like over-under on how many threes they make, over-under on how many passing yards they have. Those are prop bets for people that aren't in tune to sports betting. This goes far beyond, hey, which team is going to win? Individual performance bets. What Charlie Baker had to say about it, quote, sports betting issues are on the rise across the country, with prop bets continuing to threaten the integrity of competition and leading to student athletes and professional athletes getting harassed. The NCAA has been working with states to deal with those threats, and many are responding by banning college prop bets. Now, he goes on to say that he's reaching out to a few states and he wants to be more in accordance with other states like the Ohios, Vermonts, and the Marylands, states that already have a ban on betting on college props. Now, if you live in Michigan, this is something that we've been able to do. And guys, I'm going to shoot you straight. I love gambling. I do love gambling. Now, I do it responsibly. If you saw how much money I actually put on these games, you'd probably laugh. And that's actually maybe why I do love it so much, is because I'm not putting myself, under a highway bridge with the bets I make. It's just a fun thing to do. It's a nice challenge. And I like prop bets too. It's a great time. Like, I go to Breslin Center, I'm going to bet on over Jaden Akins 2.53 pointers. And then never see him make a three the entire game like I did against Ohio State this year. But you know what I didn't do? I didn't yell at him. I didn't go crawling into his DMs. But unfortunately, this is something that happens a lot here. So as much as I love gambling and betting, this is probably unequivocally the correct call here. All right, this is probably a really good idea by Charlie Baker here to just eliminate college sports betting for player props. Now, is this something that happens every game as far as integrity goes, right? Like guys throwing games, missing shots on purpose, throwing balls out of bounds on purpose. Like, no, it's probably not an every game thing. Is banning it going to just fix it? Is it just going to go away forever? No, of course not. Like the Boston College basketball team in the late 70s were part of a massive point shaving scandal. And I don't think FanDuel or DraftKings was around for any of that. That was a different circumstance back then, but that's always going to be part of college sports one way or another. But if you get rid of props, if you just get rid of betting on individual performances, that eliminates a good chunk of the exposure that these kids get, right? Or it's not just the integrity of the games, like Charlie Baker said, it's just the abuse that these kids get. I'm sure if you talk to anyone at Michigan State, they're going to have a story for you about, hey, a time that they had a bad game and they had to hear from someone in their mentions about how they cost them a few $100s. So I just want to match this up with what's going on in the NBA with Jontay Porter. All right, we're going to go through the cliff notes of this story going on here because I'm sure 70% of you have no idea who the hell Jontay Porter is, but he is an NBA player for the Toronto Raptors. All right, and he is embroiled in a gambling scandal himself. Now, he has career earnings of $2.3 million. Let's just remember that number here. $2.3 million is how much he has made in his career. Now, what has happened with Jontay Porter is that he was flagged because, there were 2 nights where he only played 3 minutes, maybe 2 minutes in the second game. He left the first game with an eye injury, but hey, since he played, that means that his clock was on. That means that, okay, whatever he does in this game counts for his prop bets. In the second game, he left with an illness, 2 injuries that you could just very mysteriously kind of fake, if you just want to call it that. Oh, would you look at that? On some sports books, he was the number 1 money-making player for the first game. And on the second night, the number 2 money-making player overall in the NBA. We're talking Jontay Porter. We're not talking the popular guys like LeBron James, Luka Doncic, Giannis, all right? We're not talking those guys. We're talking about a middling bench player for the Toronto Raptors. Sirens must have screamed so loud that everyone at that watchdog company is deaf right now because let's just call it what it is. This is fishy as hell. I'll cut to conclusions right now. I don't know if it was Jontay himself. I don't know if it was people in his crew. I don't know if he owes anyone debts anywhere else that he had to take a dive in these 2 games, but it is very apparent that he took some dives in these games. Now let's circle back. $2.3 million career earnings. And I know that in the grand scheme of things in the NBA, that's on the poorer side. Okay. Like NBA players make way more money than that on average, but still, that's a lot of money to me and probably you. And oh yeah, that's also way more than these college kids get. All right. So whether it is the college player themselves going all willy-nilly, or hey, isn't it kind of weird that some of these kids could be sharing dorm bathrooms with someone that could be betting on these props? Sure, it might be talked about every once in a while with their friend group. Yeah, or, of course, like we just talked about, complete strangers making these bets and the kids coming up short and getting the abuse. Or the other side is just, hey, you know what? Maybe I just do miss a few threes right now, and maybe I just do kind of coast during this game, or maybe I do fake an injury. Like, that's a dangerous spot to be. And I know it's a little naive talking like this because gambling is not going to go away. Like all the toothpaste is out of the tube. It's here to stay. But if you can mitigate the damage by taking it away from the individual bets of these college players, I think both just the ethics of the actual game itself and also these college kids don't need any more abuse than they get online. I think that's just going to help. I was going to say a little bit, but maybe it's going to help more than a little bit here. So that's just my 2 cents on it. I love betting, but sometimes you do have to say goodbye to something you love for the betterment of society. So yeah, that's just kind of where I net out on that. Folks, we will be back on tomorrow's show. We're looking to talk a little bit of Michigan State hockey. Still working on scheduling with a guest for that. And hey, if anything else happens, green and white, you know where to find us. Locked on Spartans. Love you all. Go green.